There you go. We're gonna start now, and cool. Welcome everybody. Welcome to the Bandits Everywhere podcast. My name is Matt. I am the host. I don't even know what episode is this. I think it's five. Episode five. No, it's not. Whatever. I'm not counting. I should,
That
but I'm
works.
not. So this is a podcast about dads, just talking about that stuff, being parents, about marriage, about life in general. We have no right or wrongs. Just talk about whatever we want to talk about. We are all fans of Bluey. We are all fans of Bandit, and we just talk about the show and how it relates to our lives. It's just a place of that's venting out, just come and vent their or stuff, and then joke about it. You know how when one of your friends get hurt, and after you realize everything is fine, then you can laugh about things.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's why we're here, and hopefully some of you guys that are listening to this podcast, might get some interesting insights about other dads. Because one of the things that have observed throughout the community is that oftentimes you feel like the things that you do, the way that you do your dad style is like you're the only one struggling with some stuff or the only one doing some weird stuff, and we have found out that we're not alone. There are a community of plus 10K plus members of dads that are also fans of Bluey, and we share a lot of stuff talking about the Facebook community of the Bandits. It's like one of the best communities I've ever been in, and yeah. So on this episode, we have pretty much the number one fan of the Bandits Everywhere podcast.
Well, thank you.
We have Billie here. Welcome to the show, Billie.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
Tell us a little. Tell us tell us some stuff about yourself, man.
Yeah. As Matt said, I'm Billy. I'm an engineer. I live in just outside Houston, Texas. So we just moved back here from Corpus Christi a couple of months ago, and still kind of trying to get settled. But it's been great, kind of being back in Houston after a 3-year break down in Corpus Christi. Yeah, as you said, I've been a big fan of the podcast, listened to all the episodes and everything, and really enjoyed it. I think your setup there was kind of perfect as far as, just trying to learn things from other dads is huge. We're not alone, and there's that, the world kind of tries to beat you down, and especially as men, it tries to, isolate you, and it's real easy to get into that mind frame of just thinking like I'm alone, like I have to do this, I have to be the rock for my family, and I can't depend on other people. And I think having the I'm new to the Bluey group, just like pretty much everybody else is, but it's been a good positive influence in my life, and I've really enjoyed kind of seeing people post things about having new babies, or baby Felix going through his stuff over in Australia. We pray for him every night, and it's just cool seeing dads come together and being real encouraging and stuff like that. So I'm definitely honored to be on here, and I'm excited. And so I'm a dad to a Bluey and a Bingo, Charlotte and Gwen, and they definitely keep us busy. They're 8 and 4, and so between me and my wife Jericho, we stay really, really busy with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you do. I mean, I have three, and we're just yeah. I mean, it's interesting to have more. I mean, I've seen dads on the group that has 5, 8 kids.
Yeah, I don't
That's
know how they do it, man.
yeah. Nobody does. I have one of those dads enlisted to our future episode.
Okay.
We have already scheduled for him. He has if I remember correctly 5 or 7 kids. I don't remember exactly, but I mean it's interesting. It's kind of fun to have that much. I mean, I it must be hard as anything, but uh, I
Yeah,
mean, like,
I always wanted to have four or five when I was younger, and then we had my older brother had the first of all the nieces and nephews and stuff, and his
yeah.
name's Trey, and he's like the best kid of all time. And I could still see like how much work he was, even though he was literally like he had like such perfect manners. Like as a baby, he was like awesome, and just like I don't know, he was like the best kid ever. He's like 19 now, and so he still is an awesome kid, but it was just like after seeing how much work it was even to have like such an awesome, like basically perfect child, I'm like, maybe I'm good with a little less than like five or six.
A little, just a little
Yeah, so
less.
two keeps us plenty busy, and we've really loved it. And my neighbor here has what did he tell me the other day? I just met him the other day, and they had nine kids, if I
Oh
remember right.
man,
And
that's
he doesn't. I mean, he looks probably 10 years older than me. He probably looks in his late 40s, maybe early 50s, and his youngest one is like 21. And so I'm like, how in the world did you have nine kids and they were all girls? And so
oh
I was like,
really?
wow, that's pretty crazy. So
Yeah,
I've met the youngest one. I've seen some of the older ones come and go, but just like I don't know how people do it. My sister has six kids. They live down in Panama, and
amazing.
she lets them kind of run up and down the mountain all day long, and
Yeah,
they love it down there. They live kind of on the side of a mountain, and
amazing.
it's a different lifestyle, but I
Sure
guess you
is.
just make it work when you get outnumbered by the kids. But it seems like.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, it literally changes your life. Like to have,
Oh, for sure.
even. I mean, I remember when when my oldest one was born, the day that he was born, like even to go through the whole process from the pregnancy to the delivery of the first one, like those 8 to 9 months, like those months like change everything.
Yeah.
Even because even until the last moment, like when you see your kid, I mean, you don't realize the full extent of being a dad until you see the little thing popping out of you know where,
Yeah.
and and I mean, you know you're gonna be a dad when you find out that you're both pregnant. You know you're gonna be a dad, and you know what it means, but you don't actually feel it, the things until that little thing holds your finger, or all those moments, and I yeah, I mean, I have always been my whole life like this childish person, even when I'm like an adult or before having kids. I've always thought that people perceive me, people close to me, as childish and all that, and so much has changed in me since I have kids. Like I'm a whole
Yep.
nother person going through that process of first, second, and third child.
Yeah. Even though Charlotte's only 8, but that feels like forever ago, and yet at the same time it feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
When and like you mentioned, like the first time they grab onto your finger, that's like step one of like, okay, now you realize you're really a dad. And like
Yeah.
step two for me was like, we were in the hospital for 3 or 4 days after we had Charlotte. 3 days, 2 days. No, it was only 2 days. So she was 2 days old when they sent us home from the hospital, and we literally lived right across the highway, less than a mile from the hospital. So I knew we only had like a 2-minute drive back to our house. And still, like when they came in that morning and they like looked her over and checked her over, and they're like, all right, put her in the car seat, like you guys get out of here. And I remember like thinking, like, wait, where's the instruction booklet, or
Yeah.
something, like calling my parents and kind of like freaking out and just saying like, oh, this is really, like, this is happening, we're going home. And it was on February, it was Valentine's Day of 2014, when we got to go home that day. And I just remember like on the ride home, like gripping that steering wheel as tight as possible, even though it was like a 2-minute drive, and like just remember thinking like, okay, our life changes today. And
Yeah.
just going home and realizing like, okay, we're now responsible for this kid, and just how it completely changes your view on everything.
Yeah, because in the hospital you are, stressed out, and you are oftentimes haven't slept in
Mm-hmm.
the night before, and maybe a couple of nights before, and then you are all on that, and you don't realize that that little thing actually will go home with you, you
Yeah.
know.
When you step out
So
those doors, it's real. That's when it
yeah,
becomes real, and you're like, "Uh oh,
on
what
the
am I supposed to
first
do?"
on the first one, I was I was recording everything. I remember having at that time there was a little camera like this size, phone
Yeah.
size. I had my camera on my right hand all the whole time, and I was documenting everything. And I recorded the moment we got out from the hospital from the first one, and the little camera happened to have a higher frame rate, like 700 frames per second, something like that. So it
Okay. Yeah.
records slow motion in short terms. So I was recording that, and I was recording. I was filming my wife as it was a movie or something. So she was bloated. She was
Yeah.
like
Probably
mess.
real happy.
Yeah, and so they carried her out of the hospital on a wheelchair because
Mhm.
they're, I don't know, protocol or something. She
Yeah, they do that
wasn't
here too.
in it. And we were coming out of the elevator, and I went ahead of everyone, and I was recording her. She didn't realize I was recording, so I was recording her pain face because the wheelchair was bouncing on getting out of the elevator. So I recorded her face like I'm painting wood. Yeah, later she said like, dude, you have to erase that.
Yeah, you got to delete that one. It's good for a laugh once or twice.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, what I was going for is that you don't actually realize that that little thing is going back home with you, and because you're all at the hospital and all the things that are happening at that moment. And for me, two of my three kids spent some time on the incubator because none of them uh, they were regulating their temperature right.
Hmm.
So you were, even though doctors say it's nothing to worry about. You are a little worried because
Oh, it's terrifying.
you don't know what's going on there. So you are into all that, and then so we're gonna leave the hospital, and so that this thing is not staying here. Not sure. Can I take it home with me? Yeah, and you don't know. I mean, because you are surrounded by family throughout the whole process. There's your family, your wife's family, and all that. So when you get home and no one's around, just you and your wife and this new baby, this new thing that is with you, and it's just sleeping in the bed, and you both had like, what next? What's next? Like
Yeah.
when the little fish from Nemo, when they finally get out and they are in the plastic bags on the ocean,
Yeah.
it's like,
What are we
so
supposed to do?
what not? Yeah, it's terrifying, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's get back to little to Bluey actually, because this is a Bluey podcast.
Sounds good.
Yeah, one question it's gotta be on the show. So what's your favorite episode of the show?
So I've gone back and forth like all week over this. It's so impossible to pick just one. Like they all have such funny moments. So I've limited it down to two. So I hope that's all right.
Yeah, yeah.
And both of them, like I relate to them so like personally, but for completely different reasons. And I think my probably my absolute favorite is Ben Knight, where he takes the trash cans out.
I
And
just saw
so
that yesterday. Yeah.
yeah, I hadn't seen it until fairly recently, and I
Hmm.
walked through and my older daughter was watching it, and I was cracking up at it, and so we rewound it and I watched it again, and I think I've watched it like 5 or 6 times in the last week,
Yeah.
and just
We all
cracks me up
have.
how he like takes such a mundane event and like
Yeah.
tries to get the girls involved with it, and like I
Yeah.
try and do kind of the same thing of like even if it's just something like that where it's just 30 seconds of trying to get the girls out the door to give my wife a 30-second break where she can
Hmm.
breathe for just a second, but just like having different voices for the different bins and like and I liked how they did the progression of like you can see it's week by week that they do this or whatever, where Bluey's wearing the karate uniform and like one week it's like a white belt and the next week it's a yellow belt.
I didn't
And like
notice that actually.
yeah, it's true. My wife pointed that out the other day, and I was like, "Oh, that's
Nice.
pretty interesting." And like every week, it's almost like they write the same joke like 6 or 7 times, and it works every
Yeah.
time because there's something slightly different. And so she's like learning to play the recorder. So each time they show her playing the
Yeah.
recorder, it's a little bit better. and like I think what won me over was when they were bringing both bins out one night, and the neighbor looks over, and I think Bandit asks one of them like,
I'm
"Are we
just
supposed
copying
to have
you.
this one out?" Yeah, and she goes, "I don't know. I'm just copying you." And I was like, "That's perfect. Like that's exactly right." I was
And
like,
we
"It's just
all,
written. It had to have been a personal experience because
yeah, yeah.
everybody's done that."
We all have went we all have gone through the banjo phase with our kids.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was one of the things that my oldest one is. He very often tells us that story about some of his friends that called him whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all gone through that banjo
Yep.
phase.
trying to trying to figure out how to solve something that you have absolutely no control over. It's always fun.
Yeah, but you
So
you see that you just, I mean, Bandit and Chili just showed Bingo the way, and
yeah,
actually Bingo was the one who put together the situation.
yeah,
She was the one who sorted out the whole thing, and she ended up playing with banjo. That's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. So I really like I love that episode. It's just so it's like so simple, but it's complex at the same time. Like when you really
Exactly.
look into what they're really doing. And so I think I've watched that so many times the last couple of weeks. It just cracks me up every time. So I think my other favorite one probably is fairies, just
Hmm.
because it's so easy to relate to as a dad. Where at the beginning of the episode he's busy with work or whatever. I think he's doing work of some sort.
Yeah, he's on a call. Yeah.
And he kind of like snaps at Bingo, and like you can instantly tell, like it hits him pretty quick that he's got that regret almost immediately, and figuring out a way to let the kids verbalize that without verbalizing it kind of is pretty brilliant. And like every character in that episode has like a great moment where they all have something that's kind of complex that they do, and also something that's kind of silly that's fun, like where they come up with this whole game, and like Bandit and Chili, you can tell obviously started it, but the kids pick up on it pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then it goes down as like Bandit farts in the pantry with with
With the
Bluey
skaters.
and Chili, and that cracks me up every time. And like and just as far as like Bingo being like kind of the more sensitive one, that's kind of totally how our kids are, where
Yeah.
my older one is a little bit like Bluey, and my younger one's a lot like Bingo, where she's real sensitive, where if like if we just look at her and say like, Gwen, no, like she like kind of breaks down. And like so we kind of go through the same thing, where you got to come up with a way to like let her tell you what's going on without her really having to verbalize it. And so
Yeah.
it kind of all boils down there at the end, where he's got the roller skates on his hand, and he goes out, and the neighbors are all kind of poking fun at him, and you can tell he's just like, I'm doing this for my kid. Like, does this not entertain you? And all that stuff, where he's dancing around, and then all the neighbors get in on it when she unfreezes. And I don't know, it cracks me up. That's just a great, like, well written episode all the way around.
And that's on that episode and on dance mode. There are
Yeah,
a very important and very big tool for us that we have to realize that our kids will often not say how they feel, not because they don't trust us, but
for sure.
it's just shame, and we have to deal with that. And one of the ways that I think psychologists use and to see what's going on, it's by play. Because if you were to give a doll to a kid that is going through some bad stuff, she's gonna relate the game to that. So if a kid is going through violence, the kid is gonna play with the doll, like
Right.
doing that, the repeating what. So in dance mode with the yes no button,
Yeah.
that Bingo gets to say how she felt without saying a word. We have to. That's a very important tool that we have to use. We have to come up with games so that we figure out how our kids are feeling, and then we can take action on it. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And that's
that's
something
the
that like if you're not really like putting in the effort with your kids or whatever, and or even if you don't realize it, that stuff like that is going on, like that's the kind of stuff that a show like this kind of points out that you can use in your life. And that's brilliant that they can put stuff like that in a TV show that's meant for kids, and really help parents to just be better parents, just be there for their kids. And somebody on the Facebook group this last week was talking about how they have a hard time like letting go, and somebody else got on and was talking about, the octopus episode, how I forget whose kid, it's Chloe's
That's
dad, right?
Chloe said.
Yeah, who was kind of the same way, but in the end, him following the rules of playing the octopus the right way, in quotes or whatever, ended up being the more fun way to play it. And that's kind of what I put, was like, when I catch myself doing that, when I'm Charlotte's soccer coach at practice, and so one of the stupid fun things that we do at the end is whoever wins the scrimmage at the end of the practice gets to tell me what kind of dance moves I have to do in front of all the parents, which is horribly embarrassing and way out of my comfort zone. But I realized that it's like I came up with it just kind of on the spur of the moment, at the first practice, and it stuck, and the kids like loved it. And so, like, every time when it's coming towards the end of the practice, I feel that welling up in me, like, I don't want to do this. This is stupid. I'm going to look like an idiot.
I'm doing this for my kids.
Yeah, I'm doing this for my kids. And, like, just, like, flat out just going for it. And so, like, tonight I wore I was wearing my Bluey shirt and my Bandit shirt, and doing their practice, and so all the kids like recognized it, and so I had to do most of Bandit's dance moves at the end of practice in front of all the parents, so that was fun. So it's always pretty fun.
Can you believe how big is the hype for Bluey right now?
Oh, it's gotten huge. It's crazy.
Right now here in Mexico, I just saw an actual ad on YouTube, like trying to push Bluey, because in Mexico it's not that famous right now. I mean, we catch on because all of my work and everything that I do, it's very US related and very internationally related.
Okay.
So I catched up on Bluey, but I've seen on the US and Australia, of course, obviously, but the hype and the other podcast of two bandits watching Bluey just got the freaking creator on the show.
I saw that today.
Man, I mean, dang. Yeah. I mean, that's incredible.
Pretty awesome.
So, and that all the merchandise that it's going, that are everywhere. Everyone are making stickers. I have some T-shirts on the O Biscuits page. Go check it out. Just up.
Quick plug.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you wear a Bandit T-shirt on a soccer practice, and like a lot of kids recognize and a lot of dads recognize, I mean,
I was about to say, one of the dads was like, "Hey, I love that shirt."
Yeah.
It's like, thanks.
That's amazing. So yeah, because it is. Actually, we were talking about this, me and my wife, the other day, like yesterday, something like that. Like the second best show, it's Dougie. It's Hey Dougie. So
I haven't seen that. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, you have to check it out. And actually, I've seen a couple of polls on the Bandits Facebook group, and every time Hey Dougie, it's so close to Bluey, and it's so fun. It's about it's about 5 little animals that are kind of Boy Scouts. They're called the Squirrels, and the teacher is this huge brown dog called Dougie. That he doesn't talk, he just does woof woof. Okay. But it's so much fun. But we were talking about how Bluey is way deeper. I mean,
yeah,
you can learn stuff. I'm pretty sure 95% of dads have cried at least on one episode.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. And you're not gonna cry with like watching Blippi or Peppa Pig or something. Yeah. Maybe we'll cry with Blippi, but how often he is.
Yeah, that's Gwen's current favorite is Blippi. If it's not Bluey, we're watching Blippi a lot of times, and I'm like, it's not too bad. He does a lot of good educational stuff, but he gets especially the new one on Netflix gets a little.
He's in Netflix.
With the silly. Instead of the education part of it, it's much more like silly than the original guy was, but it's still not too bad.
Yeah, I didn't know he had a Netflix show.
Yeah, they just started it not too long ago, and so it's a different guy. He looks kind of the same, maybe a couple of years younger, but apparently it's the guy that used to do the live version of Blippi. But I don't know. I've been learning this the last couple of weeks, and so now the main Blippi just does like production, I guess. I don't know, but
That's
a
an
different
interesting
guy
move.
now.
That's an
So
interesting movement.
yeah,
Yeah. So the last week we had the pre-show call, and we were talking about your experience last year,
yeah,
and I'd like to for us to go that way, and because it's a very interesting story. How far in are we on the show? Like half an hour, cool. Um, and I like you to I would like to for you to tell us that story, and well, there's some interesting things we're gonna talk about.
sure.
So why don't you tell us your your story?
Yeah.
If you're comfortable doing it.
Yeah, for sure. So the main reason, why when we saw you kind of post about wanting to have a few other dads and things on the show, I got a hard elbow in the ribs from my wife saying, "Hey, you should probably like you've got some interesting stuff to talk about. Like, go for it. Like, you could do this." And I'm sitting there like, I'm an electrical engineer. I like to sit and like do my own thing. this is
Yeah,
not this is not my comfort zone,
yeah,
but I've learned a lot the last year about being outside your comfort zone is when growth really happens.
that's right.
And I have been trying to push myself, specifically the last 6 months or so, and definitely like since we moved back here to Houston, trying to push myself a little bit to do things outside my comfort zone. And part of that is I had an experience with COVID that changed my life for sure, changed my family's life for sure. And back in September, so September 8th was when I found out I had COVID. At the time, my family had moved back here to Houston. We had just purchased a house here, but my family was living, my girls were all living with my parents at the time while we kind of did some work on the house. I was still working down in Corpus Christi, which is 3.5, 4 hours away. And so during the weeks, I was always there and then drove back here on the weekends to spend time with them. And then, every Sunday night or every Monday at 3 o'clock in the morning, getting up and driving back to work. And so, we had COVID going around the site and stuff like that, and working as a site engineer, and never had really gotten touched by it, other than some close friends that had it and had some pretty serious experiences. We had a guy pass away at site, and
Sorry about that.
yeah, so that was a little rough. And then a couple weeks go by, and I come home one weekend, and you know I guess I caught COVID that weekend. I went back like Monday of that week, and thought I had strep throat, um, and just kind of had a sore throat, had a temperature for a few days. That progressed over a couple of days, and finally went to the doctor, got the COVID test, found out it was COVID, not strep, and kind of blew my doors off at the time because I was not expecting that. It felt exactly like strep throat to me. That's what Jericho thought I had. That's what everybody thought I had. And so luckily, my manager at the time, he's a younger guy, he's younger than I am, but he told me, hey, if this gets serious, you don't want to be in Corpus Christi, you want to be in Houston, and you want to be near your family. And so I think that may have saved my life in the long run, and always eternally grateful for that advice. Because I wasn't planning on doing that. I was planning on sitting in my apartment by myself for a few days, trying to work from my apartment there, and I'm very lucky that he told me to do that. So, anyways, I packed up my stuff, headed back towards Houston, and over the next few days, like my fever got a little bit worse, that kind of stuff. And then I went through a couple of days where I had almost no symptoms whatsoever. And so that was like the weekend. By the time the weekend rolled around, I thought I had beaten it, no symptoms, nothing. Monday rolls around, different story. I start coughing a little bit. Tuesday rolls around, I start coughing a lot. Didn't sleep Tuesday night because just couldn't stop coughing, was coughing up all kinds of stuff, and didn't really realize what was going on, but realized it was getting pretty serious. And so Wednesday morning, I was due to have the little infusion. So I went to the hospital and walked 100 yards from my car to the door. By the time I get to the desk to check in, I'm like wheezing pretty hard, like breathing real difficult. And they took one look at me, took my oxygen. I was about to get the infusion, and they ended up pulling me into the ER instead.
Oh
Um,
man.
So long story short, I spent a week in isolation there in the hospital. Had double pneumonia, which was not fun. So didn't really sleep for an entire week because I was on
Doesn't sound
steroids.
fun.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. And I basically had a week to kind of sit and just think about life. I didn't have
Yeah.
anything else that I could do. Everybody at work already knew by that point that I was, off limits basically on the phone. The only contact I had with anybody was, nurses that had full face masks on. My doctors usually stood outside the window and called me on the phone. So it was pretty severe isolation at that point. My family couldn't come see me, and none of that. So by the end of that week, I had started having some pretty honest conversations with my doctor. When
Yeah.
once I started making it, a little bit better, and turns out I was on the maximum amount of oxygen that you can have without being on a ventilator, and I was about this close to going onto a ventilator apparently. The first couple of nights that I was there, and it got to the point where I was on steroids. My heart rate was all jacked up. I was only sleeping like a couple hours a night at most, and like I would Jericho, my wife, was absolutely my rock through all of this, because I would call her, or she would call me actually. The nurses would call her at 5:30 every morning. The last few nights I was in there, and they would call her at 5:30. She'd pick up the phone as soon as she got off with them to kind of tell me what was going on, because sometimes I didn't even know what was going on. I just knew they were pumping me full of all kinds of drugs, and 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 then she'd put me on speakerphone, put me in her pocket, and carry me all day long. And I would just listen to her and talk to my parents through her, talk to whoever I could, all day long, to kind of keep my sanity about me. I had some great nurses in there that really took good care of me. I had some great doctors, but the one thing that kind of reminded me the most of home was watching Bluey. And so after the first night I was there, I wasn't really worried. I didn't fully understand what was going on. I knew I had pneumonia, but I had known that for a couple of days because I had already had an X-ray, and they told me that my lungs were full, basically. But then it got to the point, where I couldn't walk, I couldn't do anything. And the next couple of days were pretty serious. And I just kind of had the thought of like, was trying to think, I'm at that point, I didn't want to see my girls on video because I didn't want them to see me in the shape I was in. It wasn't pretty. Tubes all over my face, hadn't showered in 5 days type thing.
That's the
And
least of their worries. Trust
yeah,
me.
exactly. I know it is, but it's just kind of one of those things. And
Yeah, yeah.
and so it was just kind of, I was sitting one night, and I was listening to music, and a nurse came in, and she was talking to me about stuff, and just kind of brought up the question of what reminds you of home, what can you do to remind yourself of home. And so I started watching Bluey that night, and I watched a lot of it in the hospital. I'd watched a lot of HGTV up until that point because it was one of the only things I could watch. And so I started kind of watching Bluey, and it just kind of calmed my nerves a lot, and it kind of brought things back in perspective of like putting what it's going to take to put my life back together. And when I was getting ready that morning, when I was about to go to the hospital for my infusion, when my daughter walked through going to school, I had the thought that this could be the last time I ever see her. I knew it was serious by that point. I knew I hadn't slept. I had coughed up half a lung by that point. And so I remember having that thought of, this could be the last time I see her. And, when my wife dropped me off, I had the same thought of like, this could be the last time I ever see her. And so coming back out a week later, I was in the hospital a total of a week, that first trip. And it just kind of blew my mind how much, a cartoon dog can turn into a life goal at that point is kind of what it was. And I kind of made a vow when I was in there. I made a lot of vows to a lot made a vow to God that I was going to live a different life than I had been living. I
Yeah, for sure.
made a vow to myself that I was going to step up and be the dad that my kids needed, because I had gotten lazy about a lot of things, and that I was going to try and step up and be the husband that I knew I needed to be, because I kind of the same thing, just had gotten lazy and gotten complacent with everything. We've been married for a long time and been a dad for 8 years, and And so it's just kind of one of those things, you lose focus on what it is. And it's funny how, a cartoon dog can bring that focus right
Yeah,
back in and say like,
that's right.
hey,
That's deep. That's
you're
deep.
you're not living the right life that you should be living. And it kind of gave me something to to go towards at that point. So
But yeah, but let me tell you something. I mean, we all can relate to that. Like being, at times we get
for sure.
lazy. We think that we're not the dad or the husband we want to be. But let me tell you something. I mean, we can have mistakes. We can be
Mhm.
lazy, but you cross a point and you are the dad your daughters need you to be, like, no matter what.
For sure.
And because and I feel like telling you this, like, if we can refocus, we can recenter everything, but I mean, if you are if you were pushed to be on a podcast for dads, and you are pushed to be a better dad, I mean, you already are the dad that your daughters need you to
Yeah.
be. No matter, I mean, for sure we can improve, we must improve some things, for sure. I mean, there's no question on that. But we are, like we were saying the other day, we can't be more like Bandit. We shouldn't be more like Bandit. We should be more ourselves and more the dad that our kids needs us to be, and we already are.
Yeah.
There's nothing else we can do uh, to be the more like the dad that they need. We are the dad that they need.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So uh, uh I don't know if I kind of interrupt your story.
No, that's good. It went on for another week or so. I had a week at home where I got a kind of a break from the hospital, and then I had another 5 days with another bout of pneumonia, which was not much fun because they didn't know what it was at first, so they were just kind of treating me for whatever. I got lucky, and it was pneumonia again. So,
Yeah.
so
Surprise.
my doctors have all told me, I when I went back in, specifically when I went back in the second time, they never thought I was walking back out. And then if I did walk out, that I would be on oxygen for the rest of my life. So I've gotten very lucky that I neither of those things happened to me. COVID does crazy things to people, and I got very very lucky that I walked out of there, and that I was on oxygen for a total of, I think, 6.5 or 7 weeks, somewhere around there. But I've been off it for quite a while, so it's and it's hard. I still dip back into lazy ways, every, I don't know, probably every other day at this point. but
Yeah, yeah.
but
I
it kind of
mean,
it refocuses us, and I try to think about that every day, about those first couple of days when I got back out, and the feeling that I had, the first time when I got wheeled out of the hospital and Jericho was able to come pick me up in the car, just the feeling that I had, on the ride home from the hospital, of just knowing, like, I made it through something that a lot of people didn't.
yeah,
And then I got lucky, and then I need to take advantage of that, and
that's right.
actually make a difference with my life. And so it was, I did get extremely lucky, and I am extremely grateful for that. And so, it was right about that time when I stumbled on the Facebook group. And I kind of saw it, and at first, I kind of chuckled about it and kind of thought, yeah, that's kind of funny. And I was like, oh, I'll join this. I'll just kind of see what it's about. And like after joining it and seeing, the quality of guys that are in there, and the fact that it really has become a community of,
Yeah,
people can post literally anything, and they receive nothing but encouragement from other dads. And it really has become, like, that's the best word for it, as a community. It's really cool seeing that kind of develop. And like, same thing with your podcast, just kind of seeing, I recognize, seeing some of those names, like Jordan posting in the Facebook group every once
yeah.
in a while. I
That's
see
yeah.
his name
That's
pop up,
lovely.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, I know part of your story, and that's really cool to me, just to kind of have people like, he's up in, I think, Michigan, right? And I'm in Texas,
Mm.
you're in Mexico, and there's people all over in Australia that we'd never meet in just by chance or whatever, probably. but just having, a cartoon dog that brings us together, that's kind of like a litmus test of like, I talked to new people that since we just moved here, I've talked to countless dads about, Bluey and stuff, and like it's just a bond that happens immediately, where it's a litmus test of, oh, you like Bluey, like you kind of want to be like Bandit, like we're gonna get along, we can be friends.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
good now. So
Exactly.
it's funny how
That
something so simple can take on part of your life like that.
I want that to be the core of this podcast.
Yeah.
I want to know a part of your story so that all the other dads know that part of your story and they can learn from it. That's the beauty of it. I mean, exactly the same. I was like we were saying the other call. Exactly that same spirit that we have going on in the group.
Hmm.
Like being friends and just supportive. I mean, you can see all kinds of posts there, like the bandit that is sadly getting divorced and he needs some advice.
Hmm.
The guy that is fighting custody and everything that they post, even like the case of the baby Felix.
Yeah.
And I was thinking the other day, once the harsh part about the dad, when the hard part is gone, like they're okay. I'm thinking about give him a call and maybe
Yeah, for sure.
have him on the podcast. But I was kind of struggling because I don't want this. I don't want that move to perceive as I want to jump in the train so I can be famous. You know what I'm saying? No, I honestly, with my heart, want to talk to him.
Yeah,
So
it'd be
yeah,
interesting to hear, how you get through something like that, because
exactly.
until I got sick, I've never been in the hospital before. Everything's I think I told you last week, but my client who I've worked with for the last 3 years, that has imparted a lot of wisdom into my life, I think. When I got back, he knew something had happened, but he didn't know the extent of kind of what was going on. I don't think very many people out there did. And to be honest, a lot of my friends that are going to listen to this probably didn't have a clue how crazy it had gotten, because it was just kind of one of those things that it happened so fast that
Yeah,
what he told me was, everything's okay until it's not.
yeah,
And that kind of hit me, and I almost cried in his office, just because it's such a true, like, everything's good, and then all of a sudden it's not, and your whole life changes in the blink of an eye. And hearing people's stories on, I didn't do anything special to come out of that. I had great doctors and I got lucky. And
exactly.
just to hear people's perspective on different parts of their lives, and everybody is so different, but we all are so the same.
Yeah,
And it's cool to see that, like, people from such different backgrounds can have such an impact on each other without ever meeting.
and
It's cool to see that.
and that's the difference between a very supportive group like the Bandits Facebook group, but we know the Felix case, the baby
Hmm.
Felix, but we don't know his story and the dad's story,
Yeah.
and that's why we have media like this. I want to hear his story, and that's the difference. That's why I wanted to create this, and to further increase the community's relationships.
Yeah. It's
And
definitely been good.
that you
Like I
were.
told you last week, my older daughter absolutely loves listening to it, and
I love
Erica
that.
asks every week, like, "Hey, has he put it out yet?" And like when we were on our way to soccer practice or soccer game last week, and I was listening to it on the way to the game, which is about 30 minutes, so I listened to half of it. When we get back in the car, she's asking questions about the dad and all
Yeah,
that stuff, and she's like, "Hey, let's listen to the second part of it." And I'm like, "You were listening to that?"
I later told that to my wife and some close friends, like one or two close friends,
Yeah,
because that like you telling me this, it's surreal. I mean, it's
it's awesome.
weird. It's
it
awesome. I mean,
it changes people's lives and changes people's perspective, and that's a cool thing.
and it gives me purpose. Like if one family is just taking some things out of the things that I'm doing,
Hmm.
and it's just not me, it's the community. It's just I'm just like recording the things that are going on, because but it's not just me, but to see a family like yours doing that and hearing what's going on here. That, by the way, I missed last Friday. I didn't get an episode because I was so packed with work. But yeah, I mean, it's
Understandable.
yeah, it's insane. I mean, it just gives me so much purpose to what I'm doing, and I appreciate that a lot. I
Well, I think
appreciate your
it
family a lot.
yeah, I think it just shows the importance of like just having a conversation because that's all it is. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's rare to sit down nowadays and, put your phone away for an hour and just talk. Like
Or
there's nothing,
listen.
just using Bluey as a conduit to have, a deeper conversation about somebody's life is interesting. I mean, that's all there is to it, is just like getting to know about other people and how they parent, and get some ideas on, hey, here's something that I could probably improve on or whatever. And
And
having the
yeah,
no judgment zone is a big deal. And like it's
exactly.
one thing to say that, but it's a totally different thing to actually encounter it in real life. And I feel like that's exactly what this podcast and the Facebook book group has been, is just a no judgment zone of like, hey, we're all here just to support each other.
And
So
we as guys tend to close up on those things. Like
yeah.
for example, you were talking about how some of your friends didn't actually know what was going on when, the time you were in the hospital,
Yeah.
and like there's that thing that we do as men and as dads,
Hmm.
because like you said in the beginning, we have this concept of dads being the rock of the family, like immovable, and we have to stay strong and all that. And what the Facebook community and this new horde of dads that are rising in
Yeah.
like society are
I like that.
proving yeah, are proving that statement wrong. We don't have to be that
Yeah.
rock. We don't have to be that strong. I mean, we are allowed to be sad and to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
especially with our kids. We are
And it
allowed
just
to do
makes it
that.
easier. It makes it easier to fulfill that role, because like I do think we should be the rock in our family or whatever,
Yeah,
and be the
for
one that
sure.
everybody can lean on.
For sure.
And having, it might look like from the outside that everybody's leaning on us, but we might have 10,000 guys behind us pushing on us the other direction to keep us held up, and sometimes that's what it takes. So I think
I
that's important.
I have so much of my heart on this podcast that I'm gonna let me tell you, I had a weird dream the other day, that it's gonna sound a little pretentious, but just hear me out.
Yeah.
Um, I had a dream that for some reason, I don't know, some crazy reason, I had a very big pizza that night. For a weird reason, two of my kids were held hostage in a house, but on that dream, I had to let that happen for some reason. So me and my wife and my baby girl, went out from that house. And then when we came out from that house, I noticed that my oldest boy escaped from that house. And I grabbed
Okay.
him and I went like to heck with it. I'm gonna run. Just I won't put him back in there. So we start running, and then I realized I can leave my daughter there. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
go back to the house
Left
and
one.
yeah, yeah, and get her out of there. But the funny thing is that when I go back to rescue her, I realize that a lot of kids are held hostage in that house. And when I realize I have like an army of dads on my back, going with me to rescue those kids. And my mind has been on this podcast for so long and for with so much effort that my mind kind of like saw me helping or being there for a community of
Yeah.
dads. And it is not just me leading this thing, it's everyone being support, everyone supports the community. So I just wanted to talk about this dream, just to mention this dream, just so you guys know what my heart is in regards to this
Yeah.
project. Sorry, and I like to think about that, to think about the community this way. We're just an army of dads trying to protect our kids, and
Yeah, exactly.
be better for them. That kind of sums up, what I want this community to be.
No, that's beautiful. It just kind of it makes a lot of sense, and it's part of it is like the fact that you're willing to be vulnerable with people
Exactly.
that you've met me once for an hour last week.
And I
I feel
told you
like
this dream. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I've known you forever because I've listened to all your podcasts and everything. But there's something to that, like being vulnerable. Like we started in a new church group, and we joined in with this little group of I think it's up to almost 30 people now. But it's a 15 guys or so that we have kind of a small group, and it's just crazy how when you're willing to open up and be vulnerable with people, how quickly you can grow close with people, and how quickly you can form like really good relationships with people that you can lean on. And that was one thing that we kind of learned through our COVID experience was, we had just moved here, and we had some friends, like we're from here originally. I have family here and everything, so we had my family to lean on, and we had my wife's family to lean on, but they live a couple hours away. And it kind of struck us that we have friends from when we lived here previously and stuff that we hadn't really reconnected with too much, and we just didn't have anybody to fully like lean on, where I could call them when I was in the hospital and say, hey, I need you to go check on Jericho or whatever. And that's kind of changed my mentality on, like I mentioned earlier, like I've been trying to push myself outside of normal comfort limits, because I realized, for the last like quite a while, that I had just gotten comfortable and wasn't opening up to people. And so for the last 3.5 years, I've got my work friends that I'm pretty close with because I see them every day. And we had some friends from church or whatever down there in Corpus, but I didn't have anybody that I really really felt like I could 100% lean on. And that's on me, it's not on anybody else. It was just the fact that I hadn't really opened up with people. And so yeah, it's been cool the last 5 or 6 months, just really trying to push that in my own life. And I think it's made a difference that I've got a whole group of guys there that I can lean on for sure, that I know that I
Yeah.
can. So I think that's important for guys to step back and take a look at in my life, like do I really have somebody that I can fully trust? And that makes a big difference in your
It does.
mentality, and like you don't feel so isolated, you don't feel like you're alone. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, and that kind of what this community does. We talked about this, but on this call, but just the fact that you can just write down some of the things that are stuck in your head on a
Hmm.
particular moment, just say it. Just the fact that you're saying it, it relieves you, and the fact that when you write that down on a Facebook group and a bunch of guys just give you your support, it's just you don't know how much it does to you.
Yeah.
And to further sit down with someone and talk about it, it's I mean
Yeah.
we said that already, but
Plus you get Bluey memes on top of it, which is always fun.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question, and I want you to answer, honestly.
sure.
If you didn't went through that COVID phase of your life, like, will you be dancing in front of the soccer practice?
I would like to answer yes, but I don't know how truthful that is. I think we had just found Bluey when I got sick, and it was I read about it on a forum called TexEggs, and they don't talk about stuff like that in general. It's just it's usually sports talk or politics and stuff like that. And I stumbled on a thread about Bluey, and so I had read about it and thought it was everybody was saying like, oh, this is a show that's more for the parents and the kids almost. And I love it more than my kids do. And so I brought it home and watched. I think Shadowlands was the first one I watched, and I was cracking up. And so I showed my wife, and she's like dying. And at that time, we had enough kids shows in our lives
Yeah.
with at that point in time a 7 and a 4-year-old. And so we're like, we don't need another one. But like we were both like dying laughing and like realizing that this is a good show where it shows the whole family together, and it doesn't show the dad as just an idiot. He's like, they're all
Exactly.
involved with each other. And so I think that I would still I would still definitely would have been impacted by the show, but probably not to the extent that I feel like it has, just because it took on a deeper meaning when I had nothing else. I my goal day to day at that point was keep breathing, make it to tomorrow. That was what my life boiled down to for about 5 days, and that was a scary thought, and one that I
Yeah,
don't want to go through again.
yeah,
But
and
at
that,
that same point, I'm kind of grateful. It kind of recentered me, and I think it changed me for sure.
yeah, yeah,
That's a good
and
question, though. I wasn't sure where you were going with that, but that was too funny.
and and that's, yeah, like you said, that's a scary place to be in
Yeah,
when literally everything comes to second place, and your only goal is to make it to the next day. That's, but it's like a revelation. It's like, what is the word in English? Like it's like an epiphany or something like that.
yeah,
Because when everything is
exactly.
just stripped away from you, and your only thoughts are making to the next day, you kind of reorient your priorities, like you say. And that's why I was asking that, if that experience freed you in some ways.
Oh, for sure, 100%. I let go of a lot of stuff that was controlling my life. And like I said earlier, I made a lot of um, promises to God, promises to my family, promises to myself at that point in time that I was going to change the way I was living. And part of that was realizing, that I wasn't willing to be vulnerable with other people, and realizing that I needed that in my life. And part of that is also finding a church that encourages that, and that helped us a lot through our move and stuff, especially as we were recovering and everything through the new year. And thankfully, it's been 6 months by this point, and I'm back to 90% normal, and
Cool.
living a life as well as we can, and just trying to love on my girls as much as I can, and trying to encourage them to be silly, and because they, like, me and my wife are both pretty shy, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Like, a lot of kids, most of the time it's one little more outgoing parent and one that's a little more shy a lot of
Yeah,
times. Our kids got a double dose of shy when they
I
were
think
born into our family.
mine got the opposite.
and and so my girls are very, like, when it gets more than like 10 people in a room, they tend to kind of go into a shell, and
Yeah,
I'm the same way, and there's like a little guy inside me that like wants to fight that as hard as I can. And so trying to just live a life where I can try and be an example, even though it's uncomfortable, or even though I'm not super excited about it, but trying to live a life where my girls can kind of see that. And it's hard. It's not not the easiest thing in the world to
for
do,
sure.
but I think it's important just to try and push my girls and push myself, and push my wife as well. Saying that probably drives her totally insane. But but hopefully, everybody in the end can see the positive part of that, of just trying to push ourselves a little bit beyond what we think we can do,
Exactly.
and just live the best life we can.
Yeah, we have talked about this on the podcast and other episodes, but the key to being the best that you can is seeking being the best that you
Yeah, it's
and
effort.
you're not gonna get to the standards that are probably in your mind,
Hmm.
but the fact that you're seeking actively and is constantly seeking to be a better dad, like Jordan said on the first episode, if you're reading a book about being a dad, if you're in a group of
Yeah,
dads, if
exactly.
you watch Bluey, if you're listening to this podcast, it's because you want to be better dad, and you want to be the best dad you possibly can be, and that actually makes you the best dad you can be. For
Yeah,
sure, there are things that you need to fix, but the bottom line is that you are a good dad.
yeah, for sure.
And
It's definitely encouraging.
yeah, it is. And I won't get tired of saying this because there are a lot of that's out there that need to be encouraged,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's why we're here for. And let me just make a quick thing here. Um, I'm not sure how many dads are listening up to this point, but if you were one of those dads that needs to be encouraged, please listen to this. I mean, you are a good dad. You don't need to be more like Bandit or like whatever. You don't need to be more like other dad. Like you just need to be yourself, and you just need to make baby steps, small progress. If you're 1% better than you were yesterday, that's progress, and you already are a good dad. We all have some good days and we all have some bad days, that's for sure. But if you're listening to this and you are questioning yourself as a dad, please, I mean, please don't. Just we all go through that. We are all here for you. I mean, I'm happy to jump on a call with anyone that are struggling with something just to hear you out.
Exactly.
Just send me a message or write a comment or contact me in any way or contact any one of the dads that have been on this podcast. I'm pretty sure any one of those are willing to jump on a call with you.
100%.
And yeah, I really appreciate you, Billy. I really appreciate you sharing your story with us. It's a beautiful story, and uh, I love how it revolves around Bluey.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it doesn't. It's just that beautiful story that happens to be related with Bluey.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
what I
good
meant.
good coincidental timing there that we happened to discover it right about the time my entire life changed. So
Yeah, yeah,
it works
and
then.
it forever will be remembered in your family. Bluey related to how
Oh, for sure.
you beat COVID.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. Please comment if please comment on a Facebook post or on a YouTube post. Please, if you're listening to this, please comment um, if you had a similar experience with your kids. Because we were sharing in the other call that the one of the worst thoughts that come across in your mind is losing your kids or your kids losing you. So if you have had an experience similar to this, let us know, and let's how it went. We totally want to hear you out, and thank you for listening to this podcast. Thank you to Billy, and thanks to your family, man, because
Yeah.
I mean they're awesome, and thank you for listening. Thank you to your family for listening to this podcast.
Yep. Love you,
And
girls. Had to throw that in. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. We're gonna close this episode now, and this was one of the deepest ones, and I really loved it. Thank you for listening to this podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks
Bye
for
bye,
having me.
everybody.
Thanks, guys.